You've been told it's your fault, that you lack discipline, that you don't try hard enough, that if you just eat less and move more, the weight will finally come off. But what if the real problem isn't your willpower? What if your body is working against you? Because deep inside your cells, a silent metabolic dysfunction may already be in control. It's called insulin resistance. And if you don't understand it, you will keep fighting a battle you were never meant to win. You've been told a story your entire life, and it sounds simple, almost comforting. Eat less, move more, burn more calories than you consume, and the weight will fall off. It feels logical, mathematical, certain, but what if that story is the very thing keeping you stuck? What if the real reason you can't lose weight isn't about effort, but about biology working silently against you? Because right now, inside your body, there's a powerful hormone making decisions for you. It decides whether you burn fat or store it. It decides whether you feel energized or constantly hungry. It decides whether your metabolism works with you or fights you every step of the way. That hormone is insulin. Insulin is not the villain you've been led to believe, but in today's modern lifestyle, it has become dangerously overworked. Every time you eat, especially foods high in sugar or refined carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. In response, insulin is released to escort that sugar out of your bloodstream and into your cells. It's a life-saving mechanism. Without it, you wouldn't survive. But here's where things begin to unravel. In a world where food is everywhere, where snacks are constant, where sugary drinks, breads, and processed meals dominate daily life, insulin is no longer released occasionally, it's released all the time, morning to night, day after day, year after year, and your body begins to adapt. Your cells, overwhelmed by the constant flood of insulin, start to protect themselves. They become less responsive, they stop opening the door as easily. This is insulin resistance, not a sudden disease, but a slow, silent progression, a gradual breakdown in communication between your blood and your cells. Now imagine what happens next. Your bloodstream still fills with sugar every time you eat, but your cells refuse to take it in, so your body does what it thinks is necessary to survive. It produces even more insulin, forcing the cells to respond, higher and higher levels, and just to do the same job. And this is where the trap tightens, because insulin doesn't just move sugar. It sends a powerful signal to your body: store energy, store fat, prepare for the future. And as long as insulin is elevated, your body is locked in that mode. Fat burning is shut down completely. You could be eating less than ever before. You could be exercising harder than ever before. But if insulin remains high, your body will not release its stored fat. This is why so many people feel like they're doing everything right and still failing. It's not a lack of discipline, it's a hormonal blockade, and the consequences go far beyond the number on the scale. As insulin resistance builds, your body begins to send distress signals. Hunger increases even when you've just eaten. Cravings intensify, especially for sugar and quick energy foods. Energy crashes become normal. Brain fog sets in. Fat accumulates, particularly around the abdomen, where it becomes metabolically active and even more dangerous. Over time, this condition doesn't stay hidden. It evolves. It progresses into something far more serious, what we now recognize as type 2 diabetes. But long before that diagnosis, the damage is already happening beneath the surface. Studies have shown that insulin resistance can exist for years, even decades, before blood sugar levels rise enough to trigger a diagnosis. That means millions of people are living in this state right now, struggling with weight, energy, and cravings, without ever knowing the real cause. And here's the most devastating part. The traditional advice they're given often makes the problem worse. Eat 6 small meals a day, snack to keep your metabolism active, choose low-fat, high-carb options, count calories, ignore hunger, push harder. But every time you eat, insulin rises. So if you're eating constantly, your insulin never gets a chance to fall. And if insulin never falls, fat burning never begins. This is the cycle that traps people for years, a cycle of effort without results, a cycle of hope followed by frustration, a cycle that slowly erodes confidence until people start to believe the problem is them. But it isn't. Your body is not broken. It's responding exactly the way it was designed to, in an environment it was never meant to handle. Because thousands of years ago, food wasn't constant, sugar wasn't everywhere, meals were spaced out, fasting was normal, insulin had time to rise and fall and rise again in a natural rhythm. But today, that rhythm is gone. And without that rhythm, your metabolism loses its flexibility. It forgets how to burn fat. It becomes dependent on constant fuel, constant glucose, constant insulin. So when you try to cut calories, your body resists. It slows down your metabolism. It increases hunger. It conserves energy. Because from its perspective, it's not safe to burn fat while insulin is high. And this is the truth most people never hear. Fat loss is not just about eating less. It's about creating the hormonal environment that allows your body to release stored fat. And that begins with insulin. When insulin levels finally drop, truly drop, something remarkable happens. Your body shifts. It begins to access its stored energy. Fat cells open, energy stabilizes, hunger decreases, and for the first time in a long time, your body starts working with you instead of against you. This shift doesn't happen through willpower alone. It happens through understanding, through changing the signals you send to your body every single day, because every bite you take, every meal you eat, every hour you spend without food is shaping your hormonal landscape. It's either keeping insulin high or allowing it to fall. And that single difference changes everything. So if you've been struggling, if you've been blaming yourself, if you've been wondering why nothing seems to work, it's time to stop fighting your body and start working with it. Because once you understand insulin, you unlock the real mechanism behind fat loss. And when that mechanism is finally in your favor, the results you've been chasing stop feeling impossible and start becoming inevitable. You wake up motivated. Today is the day you finally take control. You cut your portions, skip the snacks, push through the hunger, and tell yourself this time will be different. And for a moment, it feels like it's working. The scale moves, the numbers drop, hope returns, but then something shifts. The hunger grows louder, your energy begins to fade, your cravings become impossible to ignore, and before you know it, the weight comes back, sometimes even more than before. This is the cycle millions of people are trapped in, not because they lack discipline, but because they've been taught to fight the wrong battle. You've been told that weight loss is about calories, that your body is nothing more than a simple equation. Eat less, burn more, and fat loss is guaranteed. But your body is not a calculator. It's a complex, adaptive, survival-driven system controlled by hormones. And when those hormones are out of balance, no amount of calorie counting will fix the problem. At the center of this storm is a single, powerful hormone, insulin. Insulin doesn't care about your calorie goals. It doesn't track your apps. It doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to signals. And in today's world, those signals are overwhelming. Every time you eat foods high in refined carbohydrates, white bread, sugary drinks, processed snacks, your blood sugar rises rapidly. In response, insulin surges. Its job is to protect you, to remove excess sugar from your bloodstream and store it safely. But when this happens over and over again, day after day, your body is pushed into a state it was never designed to handle: chronically high insulin. And here's the part that changes everything. Insulin is not just a storage hormone. It is the master switch that controls whether your body burns fat or stores it. When insulin is high, fat burning is turned off completely. Your body cannot access its stored fat no matter how desperately you try to force it. So when you go on a calorie-restricted diet while insulin is still elevated, your body faces a crisis. It needs energy, but it cannot access its fat stores. So it does what any survival system would do: it adapts. Your metabolism slows down, your body reduces the number of calories it burns at rest, it becomes more efficient, more conservative, more protective. Studies have shown that metabolic rate can drop significantly during calorie restriction, making it harder and harder to continue losing weight over time. At the same time, your hunger hormones begin to rise. Ghrelin, the hormone that signals hunger, increases. Leptin, the hormone that signals fullness, decreases. This creates a powerful biological drive to eat, not because you're weak, but because your body is trying to save you. And then come the cravings, not for protein, not for vegetables, but for the fastest source of energy your body knows, sugar and refined carbohydrates. Because your body is desperate for fuel it can actually use, since fat is locked away behind the wall of high insulin. This is why dieting feels like a battle of willpower, because you are literally fighting your own biology, and biology always wins. But the damage doesn't stop there. As you continue to restrict calories, your body begins to break down muscle tissue for energy. Muscle is metabolically active, meaning it burns calories even at rest. So as you lose muscle, your metabolism slows even further. Now you're burning fewer calories than before, even though you're eating less. This is the hidden cost of traditional dieting. You lose weight, but you also lose the very engine that helps you keep it off. And when you finally give in, when the hunger becomes too intense, when the cravings take over, when life gets in the way, your body is primed for rapid weight regain. But it doesn't just restore what was lost, it overshoots. Because from your body's perspective, it just survived a period of starvation and it wants to be better prepared next time. So it stores more fat, more efficiently, more aggressively. This is why so many people end up heavier than when they started. Not because they failed, but because the system they followed was fundamentally flawed. Research has repeatedly shown that the vast majority of people who lose weight through calorie restriction alone regain it within a few years. Some estimates suggest that over 80 to 90% of dieters return to their original weight or higher. Think about that. An approach with a failure rate that high would never be accepted in any other field. And yet, it's still the primary advice given to millions of people struggling with their health. Because it sounds simple, because it sounds logical, but it ignores the most important factor of all, hormonal control. When insulin remains high, your body is locked in storage mode. It doesn't matter how many calories you cut, it doesn't matter how much you exercise, you are trying to burn fat while the door is still closed, and no amount of effort can open that door. Only the right signal can. When you shift your focus away from calories and toward controlling insulin, everything begins to change. When you reduce the foods that spike insulin, sugars, refined carbs, ultra-processed products, you lower the signal that tells your body to store fat. When you space out your meals and stop constant snacking, you give insulin time to fall. When insulin drops low enough, your body finally gains access to its stored energy. Fat cells begin to release their contents. Energy becomes stable, hunger begins to normalize, and something incredible happens. You no longer feel like you're fighting yourself, because for the first time, your biology is aligned with your goal. This is why some people can eat more food and still lose weight, because their hormones are working differently, because their insulin levels are lower, because their body is no longer trapped in storage mode. This is the shift that changes everything. From restriction to regulation, from starvation to balance, from willpower to physiology. So if you've been stuck in the cycle, if you've lost and regained the same weight over and over again, if you've started to believe that maybe it's just not possible for you, understand this. It was never about trying harder. It was about understanding deeper. Because once you address the hormonal root of the problem, once you lower insulin and restore your body's natural ability to burn fat, weight loss stops being a constant struggle and becomes the natural result of a system finally working the way it was always meant to. Somewhere along the way, you were taught to fear hunger, to avoid it, to silence it with snacks, shakes, and perfectly timed meals every few hours. You were told that if you didn't eat constantly, your metabolism would slow down, your energy would crash, your body would go into starvation mode. And so you followed the rules. Breakfast at 8, snack at 10, lunch at 1, snack at 4, dinner at 7, maybe something small before bed, a constant stream of food from the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep. But what if that pattern, the one designed to keep your metabolism active, is the very thing keeping your body from ever burning fat? Because every time you eat, no matter how small the portion, your body releases insulin. And insulin doesn't just respond to large meals, it responds to bites, sips, even healthy snacks, a handful of nuts, a protein bar, a piece of fruit. Each one sends a signal. Each one raises insulin. Each one tells your body the same message: do not burn fat. Now imagine what happens when you never stop eating. Insulin rises and stays elevated all day, every day. There is no window for it to fall, and without that drop, your body remains locked in storage mode. This is the hidden cost of constant eating, not just excess calories, but continuous hormonal stimulation. Your body loses its rhythm. It forgets how to switch between feeding and fasting. It becomes dependent on external fuel, and because it no longer has access to its internal reserves. This is why so many people feel like they need to eat every few hours just to function. Not because their metabolism is fast, but because it's inflexible. Because fat burning has been turned off for so long that the body has forgotten how to do it efficiently. So when glucose levels drop, energy crashes, hunger spikes, cravings intensify, and the cycle continues. But here's the truth your body has always known: you were never designed to eat constantly. For most of human history, food was not guaranteed. There were natural periods of fasting, times when the body had no choice but to rely on stored energy. And in those moments, something remarkable happened. Insulin dropped deeply, and when insulin dropped, the body unlocked its stored fat. This is not a trend, this is biology. When you stop eating for a period of time, your body begins to shift. Glycogen stores, the sugar stored in your liver, are used first. This can last for several hours, but once those stores begin to deplete, the body needs another source of energy. And this is where fat burning begins. Fat cells open. Triglycerides are broken down into fatty acids. Ketones begin to form. And your body transitions into a completely different metabolic state, one where it is powered by its own stored fuel. This is not starvation. This is survival efficiency. This is how your body was designed to function. And yet, in today's world, this state is rarely reached because we interrupt it over and over again with food. Even a small snack can reset the entire process. Even a few bites can raise insulin enough to shut down fat burning, and most people don't realize it's happening. They believe they're doing everything right, choosing healthy options, eating smaller portions, avoiding large meals, but unknowingly, they are preventing the very state their body needs to access fat. This is why intermittent fasting has gained so much attention, not because it's extreme, but because it restores something that has been lost: a natural rhythm, a balance between feeding and fasting, a window where insulin can finally fall low enough for the body to do what it was always meant to do: burn fat, heal, reset. Even a simple fasting window, 12 to 16 hours, can begin to create this shift. It doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require starvation. It simply requires space. Space between meals, space for insulin to drop, space for your body to remember. Studies have shown that intermittent fasting can improve insulin sensitivity, reduce blood sugar levels, and promote fat loss without the need for constant calorie restriction. It has been linked to improvements in metabolic health, reductions in inflammation, and even cellular repair processes like autophagy, a mechanism where the body cleans out damaged cells and regenerates new ones. But beyond the science, there is something even more powerful: the way it feels. When your body adapts to fasting, hunger changes. It becomes quieter, more manageable, less urgent. Energy becomes steady. instead of rising and crashing throughout the day. Mental clarity improves, focus sharpens, because your brain is no longer dependent on constant glucose. It begins to run on ketones, a more stable, efficient fuel source, and for the first time in a long time, you feel in control, not because you're forcing yourself to eat less, but because your body no longer demands more. This is the difference between restriction and regulation, between fighting hunger and understanding it, between living to eat and eating to support life. But it's important to understand this. Fasting is not about punishment. It's not about extremes. It's not about ignoring your body's needs. It's about timing, about creating the conditions that allow your hormones to function properly. Because without those conditions, fat loss remains locked, no matter how hard you try. So if you've been eating all day, believing it's the key to boosting your metabolism, it may be time to question that belief. If you've been afraid of skipping a meal, worried that your body will shut down, it may be time to understand what your body is truly capable of. Because your body is not fragile, it is adaptive, powerful, resilient, and when given the chance, it knows exactly how to heal. But it needs space to do it. Space from constant insulin, space from constant feeding. Space to access what it has already stored. So the next time you feel that urge to snack, to fill the silence with food, to eat simply because the clock says it's time, pause and ask yourself a different question. Is my body truly hungry, or has it just forgotten how to burn its own fuel? Because once you give your body that space, once you allow insulin to fall, once you step into that natural fasting state, everything begins to change. Fat loss stops being forced, energy stops being unstable, hunger stops controlling you, and your body finally returns to what it was always designed to be: efficient, balanced, and capable of burning fat effortlessly.